Joining us now is political analyst Levy Ndou. Levy, are you welcoming of this news that we won't have to wait very long, in fact just a few hours to find out what's in that part one?
Good evening to the viewers at home. Indeed, I have been waiting. I'm still waiting for the report on the website of the presidency. And I think that is exactly what most South Africans are also eagerly waiting to do. I think, as the president said, this indeed opens a new chapter. After a very, very long wait, we are now then able to access part of the report as fast as it has been presented a few minutes ago. And of course, for me, this is another clear indication of a transparency and willingness to ensure that ordinary citizens also get the sight of this part of the report.
I guess you can't promise a new dawn, a new era, be elected on an anti-corruption ticket and then look like you're going to sit on information or try and hide anything.
Well, based on the fact that there were some groupings who even went to court suspecting that Ramaphosa could not be the right person to receive the report, I think he actually did what most people never expected. We are used to a situation where reports are submitted of the commissions and they actually take time to be released. And at this stage, the president himself, after receiving the report, he promises everybody that it's going to be available on the website so that everybody should be quite aware that there has not been any altering of the report. It's a demonstration of transparency, openness, and also ensuring that everybody should not have perceptions that something might actually be done to alter part of the report. So everybody in the entire world, in the next few hours, as promised by the presidency, would have sufficient chance to get into the details of the three sections that are submitted of the first part of the report.
Yeah, we don't know when this decision was made. Maybe this was an ace up his sleeve, planning to surprise us today, or maybe it's a recent decision. But the president hadn't told us that he was going to release it. Otherwise, we could have skipped a whole day of court action, in fact. Now it was a lot of us were wondering how the State Capture Commission would narrate the evidence, 3.5 years of evidence, and come up with themes. So we know that in volume 1 of part 1, it's going to be dealing with SAA. Volume 2, the New Age, the Gupta linked newspaper, and then volume 3, SARS. Does it sound very logical, the way it has grouped the information, sticking to one SOE or one company?
Well, I think when you separate chapters, even in an ordinary book, you actually have to group them into themes. And I think that is exactly what Justice Zondo decided to do. Initially, we thought that the first part will just be a background on what has been happening in the commission, and then part 2 would come to the details, and the last part will come with the findings and the recommendations. And I think what DCJ did was to go for broke, to say, I'm starting with what has happened with SAA, the New Age, SARS, and matters that relates to public procurement. And that, for me, I'm expecting that we're actually going to be getting the details on what actually happened in these 3 volumes of part 1. And of course, it should also then be a build-up to what we should expect in part 2 and then in part 3. So at least when we're done with this one, we'll be having an idea of what to expect in the other 2 parts that are remaining.
All right, let's zoom in a little bit on these volumes. A lot of people have argued that what happened then is linked to the state of SOEs now, and we know that SAA has been struggling and wasn't flying for many months. So there, the findings would be around whether or not the Guptas were actually manipulating flights of SAA routes, deciding which routes were best for its own competitive interests, and even trying to put ministers in place to ensure that it got the best routes out of SAA for its other competitive interests.
Well, of course, that also still remains a speculation. But the lucky that we have, Francis, is that the details are actually going to come out. And if you recall, there has always been an emphasis that we need the commissioners to look at the allegations of the involvement of the Gupta family in the running of the state and their corrupt involvement in some of the SOEs. So, of course, most people would also have an interest to understand or to know exactly what kind of influence did the Guptas have on SAA. And also, of course, when it comes to the new age, we all know that the Guptas were also involved. So there's going to be a lot of interest from a number of people to get to understand the extent in which the Guptas got involved in these two areas or these two volumes of part one of the report.
And already part one goes beyond the Guptas, because we look at SARS, and there the claims are against a former commissioner and Bain and company. Already there's a Nugent report, a lot of findings around SARS, very sad to read, because this was a shining light, a fully functional institution at the top of its game, and then you see departments being shut down and the capacity of SARS being diminished over time. A lot of questions around that. Do you think this report can go way above the Nugent report? At that time, Bain and company, for example, was blaming a partner, saying he wasn't honest, but a whistleblower has said that they weren't, in fact, honest.
I think there is going to be a lot that we should expect when it comes to SARS. And also looking at the period that was spent on matters related to SARS by the Commission. There was a moment where there was questioning and cross-examination on matters that relates to SARS. At the same time, even before the establishment of the Commission, there has been stories of or suspicious stories surrounding SARS. And I think it will also be a very an area of interest for people to understand exactly what was happening. There is also a perception that it appears as if there were certain people that were planted at SARS for the purposes of channeling the state resources so that they actually get out of SARS to benefit certain individuals. And of course, that is one other area that we are also going to have a lot of interest and to look at, to understand exactly what is it that the Commission has actually established, and also very importantly, to get to know the remedial aspects that the Commission might also be able to come up with. Because of course, I think at the end of the day, if wrongdoing has been found to have been committed, one would also expect that we get proposals on how best can we save the situation.
Yeah, and we clarified earlier that only recommendations will be made here. It's up to the President and other state departments to act. But the President himself was very clear that even before he announces his intentions, other state departments or other departments can act. And we know that SARS has already tried to look at the past and tried to recoup some of the money that was lost and fix some of the things that went wrong in the past. All right, thank you very much for your analysis, political analyst Levy Ndou.